Good morning, everyone. Are we on the air? Yes? Live? Are we awake? This is great. Thank you so much for being here so early. This is really wonderful for us. My name is Matt Schechner. It's my great honor to serve as Director of Advertising Week Europe. And this is a terrific start to day 2. So thank you so much for coming. I want to thank Marcus and Charlie, the team. We have a new dynamic point guard who has been working with us. I think I've spoken to Lisa more than I've spoken to my wife the last few months. And she has done such a tremendous job in putting the timing seminars. There's another one here tomorrow. And we had their sister company yesterday. The Time Fortune Group was here yesterday morning at 9. So you'll see Time and their family throughout the week. They're huge partners of us in America as well. Joe Ripp and his team do a tremendous job back home on the other side of the Atlantic. So I really want to thank you, Lisa, and of course Marcus and Charlie, just for being such fantastic partners. This is a very unique group, and I want to thank my wife, who's not here, because I was going to wear that jacket this morning. And she said, go with the blue. So without further ado, Brand You, take it away. Thank you, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sally Iden, editor of Now magazine at Time Inc. And at Time Inc, we pride ourselves on helping our readers to establish their own personal brands. And that's what today is all about, helping you to establish your own personal brands and, you know, what you need to do and what pitfalls to avoid along the way. And we've got an absolute expert panel who are all absolute brands in their own right. So starting off, she needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce her anyway. Katie Price, author, best-selling author, businesswoman, TV star, and obviously most recently winner of Celebrity Big Brother. We've also got Robin Wight, who's president of Engine, and he has absolutely the brightest mind and wardrobe in the UK advertising landscape. He wrote his first slogan aged just 10 years old, and he's been doing it ever since. He's behind really iconic campaigns like Orange and Carling. Kathleen Saxton, founder of innovative headhunting firm, the Lighthouse company, who works with some lesser-known clients like Twitter, Facebook, Yahoo. You may have heard of them. You've all successfully built yourselves as brands in the media industry. So kicking off, let's get you to describe your personal brand in 5 words. Kate, start with you.
I wouldn't exactly say there's 5 words, but I would say, oh, hello everyone, by the way. And I'm sure you was all up early, just like me this morning. But yes, my brand, it's interesting because you introduced me as Katie Price, but also there's the Jordan side, the fun one. But I would say my brand's quite versatile and I try and cater for everybody and I have fun doing it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So it's very clever to have 2 brands. We'll talk about that later.
Oh, okay.
Very clever. Colourful, eccentric, with many wives.
Like my many husbands.
Well, so we got a lot in common. But
Yeah, we do.
my 4th and final wife is in the front row. Big hand for Paola.
I've never been married. That's still ahead of me. So maybe you can lend me a few, Katie, if you wouldn't mind. I would say mischievous, open, brave, kind, and short.
But look at those heels.
We'll come on to the heels. There's a message in the heels.
Actually, it is actually a foot event. Look at our shoes. They're all amazing. Look at them.
I was actually saying, it looked like we've come like colour-coded, like we were like in black and white stripes and you're in pink, but we didn't plan it. But
To show us all up.
yes.
I think with our shoes, we can say this is our fetal attraction.
Yes.
The puns have started. So building your personal brand is all about working out what makes you special and what your superpower is, what gives you the edge over everybody else. Kate, what would you say your superpower is?
Well, if I knew that, then I'd get lots of people like me and turn them into me. So if I knew that ingredient, then I would, you know, master it on everyone. But all I would say about it with me is I've come from nothing and I made everything just by common sense. I'm not the most intelligent person. If you play Trivial Pursuit with me, I'd be absolutely useless. But common sense and business, I'm perfect. I would say.
Yeah.
Robin?
Well, yeah, I think that the core to the whole thing is I've never, until quite recently when I thought it was fun to wear silly clothes, I never saw myself as branding myself. But if you ask me to look back, I suppose the greatest quality I have that's relevant in branding is insensitivity. Because if you're insensitive, when people tell you to go away and get stuffed, like a new business client or whatever, you just go on.
Yeah.
And insensitivity is the other side of persistence. A very nice woman who's my boss called Debbie Klein says the difference between Robin and a Rottweiler is eventually the Rottweiler lets go.
So it's tenacity.
Yeah, that's a posh word for it.
I'd say my superpower is connection, I guess, or connectivity. I guess in my day job as a headhunter, my job is to connect people together. But I think as an individual, I've always been someone who's fascinated by people. So naturally, that makes you a very natural connector. So that's definitely a power that I have, and I'm very lucky to hold.
And I think the buzzword at the moment is authenticity and, you know, being true to yourself. And Kate, obviously you're really honest and authentic. I mean, is that a problem, do you think, being too authentic when we're sort of building our brands, too honest? Should we hide some of ourselves or just be ourselves?
I suppose the difference with all of us and everyone in this room is from the age of 17, I literally did Page 3, and then, you know, I've been doing reality shows about my life and stuff, so I can't sit here and say, oh no, I've got private things. There are some private things, but I suppose my life is out there and I don't mind it out there. I am very open, too open sometimes, too trusting, and people take advantage of my kindness, but I'd rather be that way. I'd like to share things and make people happy, and I suppose.
And obviously you've got 2 million Twitter followers.
Yeah, not enough though, is it really? So hopefully you lot are near with follow me.
Everyone follow Kate.
No, but yeah.
And do you think sometimes you're too honest on Twitter, or do you think that's why everybody kind of tunes in?
Well, I think social media, especially Twitter, if I had that social media when I first started, I always wonder what would happen now. But it's just sort of started now, 20 years on from my career. I think it's the way forward. I wish they had it back then, to be honest. But yeah, I do air things on Twitter. I might have to have words with you later to learn how to do it all more to expand the business. But it is good for business, yeah.
I think it's also brilliant in terms of your brand that it is about your personal reality. And you share. So, for example, your recent fake tan escapade, you shared it with everybody.
I didn't think it would go everywhere, though. It's always the weird things you put on Twitter, and then they write about it, and I'm like, why would you want to write about that?
Well,
we've all been there.
Yeah.
But it was great. But so I think, and that's why I think without, you know, you won a reality show because everybody knows your reality, and you have 2 million people, 4 million people know all this about you, and therefore you're going to win any friendship competition.
But I didn't go in there to win.
No.
That might be why I did, because I wasn't bothered either way, to be honest.
No, sure, but that's because of the way you've shared yourself so fully, which is a really interesting phenomenon which you could never do before. You know, before all this was invented, that possibility of showing yourself deeply in this way wasn't possible, and I think you've developed that brilliantly.
Thank you.
And Kathleen, just at a sort of business point of view, particularly with recruitment, you know, how much of you should you...
I think it's really important. This authentic self has been around for a long time, but as you know, in a psychotherapy sense, we have the ideal self, the person that we want people to believe that we are. And I think in a business sense, and particularly in a headhunting sense, when someone comes in to see us and we interview them, particularly because we always start with where was home and, you know, what did mum and dad do? And if there is a story of hardship or difficulty, it will come through, which is really interesting. But actually, when someone isn't authentic with me, in particular, it's like I'm trying to open a safe. I'm moving it round to try and get the combination to open the door. And sometimes if someone's hiding something from me or isn't honest with me about being fired or having an addiction or something that may be going on in their life, which means they can still be fully functioning and wonderful, it's just that there's something happening, I can feel it. I can feel there's something that's not quite as it should be. And I'm either left feeling rather unsettled by that, or eventually they'll kind of cough up before the end of the interview, and suddenly the whole door opens, and then I can work with them much better. So it's about people being brave enough, I think, to be honest about who they are, to be comfortable with who they are. And I think we're moving into a world, because of social media, where we do see more of people's real lives, and I think we prefer that to this polished, kind of over-branded self. So I think it's a balance between knowing what your brand is, but being courageous enough to be honest about what that really is and sticking with it.
Yeah, I just add one thing to that, which is like a commercial brand, a BMW or a mobile phone, the most successful brands are built on a truth. And that's true of personal brands as well. And that's the point I was making about Katie and her tweeting about her life. That there has to be truth. It can't all be just show. And finding what that truth is and exposing that truth and making sure that you have quite a lot of what I would call brand width. You're not just a narrow job-only person, that you add other things to your life. And interesting people add other things to their life, not part of a strategy, but because it's more interesting to do many things than just a few things. And that makes a much more interesting authenticity.
And just going back to social media, I mean, do you look at people's social media profiles before you interview them?
Absolutely. I'm all over their YouTube presentations. I'll look at them. I love, to me, voice and the way that someone presents themselves tells me quite a lot about them. I think we'll look at their social feeds. I think everyone's entitled to a private life. Everyone's entitled to get drunk and have a laugh and all the rest of it. But I think you can control those things. And I think it's about being smart enough. We do lots of stuff with them, speakers for schools, and often I say to the kids that we go and talk to, don't let your Friday night meet your Monday morning. Facebook can be controlled quite heavily, so you can keep that for that. Maybe Twitter's is used for a different device. So I think it's just being smart about what you show people and how much you want to show people. And I think that, of course, our researchers will look up people to quite a harsh degree before we meet them. So we know lots more about them than people think we do before we meet them.
Terrifying.
It's just my job.
And how easy is it to change your personal brand? So I'm going to ask Katie first, because obviously you created Jordan when you were 17, probably the most successful glamour model there has ever been. And then you took the decision to almost rebrand yourself as Katie Price. So you can talk us through why...
Well, I can only thank the media for that, because even till this day, there's some magazines out there who are like, right, we want to do a shoot with Jordan. So they'd put Jordan on the front, but then they'd put Katie Price somewhere on the cover. Or if I'm having a bad week, yeah, it'd be Jordan. Another week, if I'm having a good week, oh, Katie Price. So it's you guys who decide when you want to put Jordan or Katie Price, depending on what I've done. You guys pick and choose. So you've done me a favour, really, because now my job opportunities are, like, wide open. Like, with my branding, I can cater for the men, I can cater for the kids, the mums, the riding, everyone. So I can only thank you guys for that as well, because, well, Jordan's not here now. She'll only come out at night at the moment.
A few glasses of wine.
Yeah. But, I suppose I haven't done the Jordan work for a while. Like, I would say that's more like the men's mags. But I'd love to do all that, but no one seems to book me for it. Is it because I'm too old now? I don't know. I've still got it in me, trust me. But, yeah, I'd say I'm quite lucky with my brand, because it's not just one tunnel there. I can do everything. Yeah. Like when I was on the phone to you yesterday, I was in my kitchen, and you said, well, what else is there to do? And I said, well, I'm in my kitchen. I haven't done kitchenware yet. I can do, like, kettles, knife and forks, chairs, lampshades, homeware. You can do everything.
Where are the ironing board covers?
Oh, yeah, I was sorting out my office, and years ago, when I had a Brazilian strip of hair, I've got a tattoo there now, so I've got no hair, but I did these...
You see what I mean?
I did these ironing board
Who's going to be tweeting that?
Basically, when you iron over me, the bikini comes off and I'm naked, but it's old now, like I say, because I've got the hair there. I haven't got that now. But so I thought I'd flog them for, like, £5. If someone wants them signed, £10. Why not?
There you go.
Well, you see, I think...
Just to get rid of them, I've got boxes of them.
I think this is the most fascinating conversation I've ever been part of.
And on stage as well.
But the thing which is really interesting, comparing you with Ed Miliband, because...
Robin, do you have to?
Well, the reason is that you have brilliantly created two brands.
Yeah, I am a Gemini as well.
And he's been unable to change his brand. That's the point I'm making. And
Right.
it's really hard. And the reason why it's hard is that when the brain has got an opinion, it doesn't like changing it. And it doesn't like changing it because it actually requires twice as much brain effort to learn something new than to repeat a view or a belief you already have. So for you to manage to be two brands in the brain meant people's brains had to learn about another you, and that's quite hard to do. And advertising agencies think they can reposition a brand very easily. It's very, very hard. There's many, many failures. And so I think you have done something which many huge campaigns have failed to have done.
But I'm also realistic with what I do. You know, there's lots of people out here who are, I mean, I'm just saying, you know, I mean, everywhere, who are like, well, I want to do this and do that. And the way with me, I have to be realistic and think, can I realistically do this? If I really don't think I can, then I won't bother wasting my time. I've got the format. I know the format I use. So it's just copy-paste, really. You know, I do my press calls. I look like a twat when I stand there. I don't think anyone can ever say, I look in the mirror and go, God, don't I look gorgeous? But it gets the attention, and everyone might say, oh, God, what's she doing now? Even though I look an idiot, they look to see what I'm doing, so I've made it aware of what I'm doing, you know.
But that's your personal brand as well.
Yeah.
You don't take yourself too seriously.
Well, you can't do, you know.
And so you can turn up dressed as a pony or...
Yeah, I love
whatever
it. An excuse to dress up and go to work.
That's what I do.
Exactly. But you've done the pink a little bit more than me.
Well, you like pink too.
I do, yeah.
Yes.
But there's something in that, Sally, because actually we tend to judge someone, as you know, very, very quickly. So before someone's even spoken to us, often within less than three or four seconds, we've made our mind up often about whether we think we're going to like this person. And to your point, Robin, it's very hard for the brain to then re-decide again. Even if someone then tells us something to dissuade us, as humans, it's very difficult for us to recondition our thoughts. And the piece that's left blank, if we don't know something about someone, we tend to fill that void with our own fantasy of what we think that may be. So it can be, in the business context of people, some of these people in the room, if you've done something a bit twattish at work, it's quite difficult in years to come for people to ever think about you in a different way. So years ago, when I worked at PhD, in fact, I can see Sarah Leach in the audience here. It isn't Sarah, but there was a young man that we worked with who got very drunk on one of our sort of big weekends away and tried to snog our managing director, who really was not up for being snogged. And for years and years after that, we talked about him joining the board, and every board meeting we discussed whether it was time. And from a craft skill point of view, absolutely he was ready, but every time that incident came back up and it thwarted him. And in the end, he moved to a different agency and then went on to be incredible. But people remember for a very, very long time.
Well, I think the point there, which is worth restating about personal branding, is again how the brain works. In making a decision very, very fast. So the decision-making brain is the one between our ears, runs something called the amygdala, and we're wired up to decide if I'm walking along and I see another guy, and our brain are at the caveman stage, friend or foe, just like that, make a decision. So that's that high-speed decision-making brain. We've all got it, we all use it. And then the other part of our brain, the front, the near, rationalizes that decision. It tells us why we liked or didn't like that person. So what is true about brands generally, that the brand is meant to get a decision quickly without any thinking. The same is true of the personal brand. So when you present yourself, it's the first 5 seconds are all you have, because the brain is making decisions without you knowing it.
Absolutely. And Kathleen, when we were talking earlier, you've got some fascinating stats on just the appearance. You know, the things that we take from how we look, how we dress, the heels.
So studies have been done. Lots of you all have obviously read Malcolm Gladwell's books and those kinds of people. And he will talk, he interviewed 250 CEOs for a particular book he did a couple of years ago. And he discovered that 60% of them were over 6 foot tall. So things like height immediately will have a decision. It's no coincidence that none of us are particularly hugely tall.
Excuse me.
And yet, apart from you, sorry, Robin, of course. But again, no heels for you, but heels for us. If you think about it in the business context, there's studies to say that women, for example, who are 5'7" and above, will earn a lot more than if you're shorter. So maybe we are artificially improving our height for somehow subliminally knowing it will help our chances in business or careers or whatever it may be.
Or in passing on our genes, because that's the real reason why we're here. And the reason why you're taller is that it projects that you can protect somebody else.
Yeah.
That Malcolm Gladwell point, yes, 65% of the leaders are over 6 foot, but only 9% of the population as a whole is is over 6 foot. And what that really signals is a value of height, and therefore it makes the achievement, not, you know, of, for example, Martin Sorrell, who's downstairs, all the more remarkable.
But it's also things like, I mean, I have to say weight comes into it, makeup, hair, sound, smell, all of those things. We make decisions very quickly about people based on that. So people that are overweight unfairly will be judged as being more lazy, to be slower. They're again, if you look at studies, they earn less. So unfortunately, we hate to admit how much look, you know, really has an effect on the way we judge people, but it absolutely does.
Yeah.
And so I think just to finish that, it's actually true, isn't it, that every inch you are above average height is worth an extra £300 a year in salary.
Be going out and buying some even higher heels. So, Kate, you said something really interesting earlier when we were chatting. You were saying that you've never had so many compliments as you have recently because you've actually
I've lost the chest, you mean?
I was trying to find a way, yeah.
People look at my eyes now.
I think that's really interesting because, you know, that's quite a big decision for you.
Well, I had no choice, actually, but... yeah, I suppose for years it's all been, you would say, about my cleavage, the boobs and everything, and then now I haven't got them and more people are complimenting, saying, oh, you look so tiny and you look so much better without your boobs. And so, yeah, the point you're making is, what, it's not just all about...
Yeah, well, I think it was the fashion show, I think, that you know, everybody started talking about with the you know, Fashion for Ebola, and you did the catwalk and your hair was slicked back, and you know, you were wearing sort of a tuxedo, and it was a real break from how everybody sees you. Yeah. And so you were saying that actually, you know, you were really surprised that, you know, less is more, and you know, everything seems a little bit more sort of pared down.
But then I only wear makeup and stuff when I go to work. I never wear it when I'm at home, ever. I'm quite natural. But I was going to say to you, what do you think then? Because you've met me now. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad, I can take it, trust me.
What do I think of?
Like, because you said, like, when you meet someone in the first 2 minutes, or because you obviously know, like, what I do, what's your view?
Well, it's really interesting. When I met you today... No, it's interesting. It's interesting. When I met you in the green room today, my anxiety was that you would like me, actually, as a fellow woman. So I thought that you meet so many people all the time. My sense was, I hope Katie just thinks she seems all right. She seems
and I liked your perfume. I forgot mine. It was too early. And so I borrowed your perfume.
Pleasure. I'll tweet it at some point, I'm sure. But,
not on brand.
But I think what's interesting, Katie, is obviously we haven't met before, so I don't know you. But because of the way I particularly like authenticity, I like someone to tell their truth, actually, whatever that may be, no matter how difficult or exciting or fun that may be. I like to know the truth, and my sense of you is that that's what you give us, and therefore I find that incredibly comforting and welcoming. I love that.
Brilliant.
But what happened just then is an example of what your brand's about, because you take risks with yourself in public.
I know, but...
And that's what you just did.
Only because I started so young. And when you're young and I was going out clubbing, getting drunk, you know, anyone else my age at that point would be doing the same. It's just because I was in the public eye, mine was being trashed through the papers, so that gave me that party girl image, even though I wasn't doing anything different to anyone else. So I suppose that's where that Jordan image came from. So yeah, I suppose I live my life through public eye, but there are a lot of private things about me. You're all going, yeah, for sure. No, there is.
Of course.
Is there something about you we don't know that you'd like to share?
Robin, that's my final question.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry.
I'll wait then.
And how do you decide what to do and what to turn down? Because Channel 5 have been obviously, you know, dying to have you on Celebrity Big Brother for many series. So why did you decide to do it this time?
Well, the price is always right for the pricing.
Was it purely a sort of figure thing, or money, as in money, or did you want to, you know, did you feel, well, you know, last year was quite a dramatic year for you? Did you feel that you wanted to?
They've been asking me for years to do it, and I was always like, well, I don't need to do the show, but if you offer me good money, I will. And January, obviously I had my boobs done and I was recovering from that, and I was watching the show, and I remember saying, I'm so glad I'm not in this house. And then I get the phone call 2 days later, I'm in the show. So I've done half the time as everyone else and still getting paid the same money. It's January. It's a genius idea. What else is there to do? And even better, I won it. So that's why I did it. Call me crazy, but
and I think you know, everybody, you really sort of endeared yourself to everyone, because when you first went into Celebrity Big Brother house, you could see you were, you know, having a panic attack almost. You were so nervous, and I think right from the get-go, people were surprised by that.
Yeah, I did say to them, the Big Brother people, and I still say it now, I do not think I was worth that money for them, because I generally think they thought I'd go in there, be feisty, argumentative, and I'm not that person. If there's something I believe in, we've all got opinions, everyone's got an opinion, but it's just the way you deal with it and the way you deliver it. I don't have to go in there and argue and shout and, you know, that's just not me. So I did warn them before I went. I said, if you want someone to go in there as a feisty character, honestly, it's not me. But the media have sort of made out I am this feisty character. But I'm actually not, as you can see.
And do you think that's why you won it? Because everyone was just so
I've no idea
surprised?
how I won it. I think... Actually, I don't know how I won that.
I think it's about showing some fragility, and I think that's a real connection. When someone says anything, I mean, obviously you weren't very well in there, so there was a sense of vulnerableness with that, your honesty about it. But I think any time someone shows their vulnerability in something, whether it's personal or professional, somehow that connects people greater together. We feel we're not alone in our own, because it just connects to our own fragility. So I think that was part of it. And I think also the fact you didn't get, you know, rolled into the Perez and the real and the other Katie's kind of, you know, discussions, and it was times it was painful to watch.
Well,
it was very painful to watch. I can't even imagine.
Like, oh, that's what I mean. I don't argue anyway at home or anything. So why am I going to go on a show and argue with these people I'm not going to see again and show myself up and argue over what? The way I hold my cup of tea, or, you know, it's so petty, and it's like, I'm not a kid, I'm an adult, you know.
But I think showing that strength of not getting rolled into it is also important. I think people then feel there's a real sense of self.
Oh, she did try, don't worry, she did try. But I wasn't too great in it.
But I think it's also goes back to what I was talking about. I think that millions of people already knew you.
Yeah.
And they knew you, they liked you, they loved you, and they didn't know the other people to the same degree. I wish I'd put money ahead. I don't know what the odds are, because I'm sure I would have bet money if I'd thought about it, that you were going to win.
I know, I should have bet myself, shouldn't I? Well.
Why don't you do it again? We'll all bet.
Kathleen, you said, you know, showing vulnerability is a good thing, but I think, particularly in business, you know, there is this mantra. I mean, I remember someone saying to me, never cry at work. You should never cry, no matter how tough it is. You know, never be vulnerable, you know. So do you disagree with that?
I do disagree more than I used to. I mean, no one really likes to cry. Well, I don't like to cry in public, so I have to sort of I often try and hold it together, even on a bad day, unless one of my PAs is looking after me, either Tony or Rebecca will catch me. But I think, for example, I used to work years ago with a wonderful woman called Fru Hazlitt, who's not in the industry at the moment. And when I worked with her at Virgin Radio, she used to cry on a relatively regular basis, either out of happiness or sadness. And actually, again, I think when we all worked with her, we'd go over hot coals for her, because you absolutely felt you knew who she was. And in business, I often talk about it. I talk about being sort of like Velcro. You have to have something to stick to with someone. If they're too polished and too smooth, there's nothing to really hold you together when times get tough. And I think it's very easy in business, when businesses are going well, that it's all hunky-dory. But when it has been tough over the last few years, it's the leaders who are particularly human and open about themselves and how tough it is that will carry the troops across and through. So actually, whether it's crying or whatever it may be, showing that, I think, is really important. If you're breaking down every 5 minutes, that's probably not going to be the right thing. But showing it from time to time when it's really there, why not?
And have either of you had to sort of rebrand yourself in your careers?
Oh, what about you?
Robin, let's start with you. I'm sure you've got a much better story than I.
Well, rebrand. Gosh, I suppose, have I ever tried to I've never liked yourself coming to... I suppose I've just...
You're perfect. You're perfect. You didn't need to.
I just think that I basically discovered who I was over a period of time. You know, I wasn't always wearing purple raincoats. When I was at university, I got a bit of momentum behind me, and then they came into advertising, and I used to wear sort of silly clothes, and I got quite a lot of attention. I thought, that's great. So I just basically have sort of put my foot on the accelerator. And then I learned from brain science about the way people look at peacock-like displays. The peacock display, it's a way of signalling high-quality genes. I won't bore you with all the detail, but believe me, it is. So I thought, well, the more I can display all this stuff, you know, the better chance of passing on my genes.
So it's peacocking.
I'm peacocking, yes. So I've got 5 kids, 4 wives. I mean, it's working. Why would I want to change it?
And Kate, how do you decide what things to do and you know, what to turn down? Because you must get offered so much all the time.
I've never, apart from the latest in colour before, I've never put my name to any brand. It's all my own brand, because if you put it to someone else, unless they're going to pay me a big advance and a good royalty, I'm not interested. When it's your own brand, it's all yourself, isn't it? You take all the income.
You can control it.
Yeah, and you can control it. But
what's the strangest thing you've been asked to put your name to, or the strangest thing you've been asked to do?
do you know what? I haven't really had anything strange, and even if there was something strange, I would work out a way to make it work, because it's more of a challenge. So I love challenges. I love people when they say, oh, you'll never be able to do that, no chance. And I'm like, really? Then watch me. That gives me more fire and determination. You've got to have knockbacks. In anything you do, it's always good to have a knockback. You've got to feel what it's like to not win everything, to have a knockback. And that's what drives me. And it's the challenge. But you've always got to be realistic in what you do. And any company or anything that I do, I always start small and then build from that. And I think of long term, not short term.
And do you think there's any sort of limitations to your brand? Because I know that you've said that you've always wanted to be on the cover of Horse and Hound.
I know.
We've got the chief exec of Time Inc. here. He can make it happen.
Come on. Come on.
Is that a deal? Can we just do a deal here? Cover a Horse and Hound?
Like, no. I've always...
A possibility?
The horses.
Yeah. But
always, out of everything I've done, I've always wanted to be on the cover of Horse and Hound. How weird's that?
And Marcus is 6 foot tall, so it's perfectly possible. As a leader, he can make that decision.
Yeah.
And you were saying that obviously the sky's the limit. You know, the thing with you, you know, you are ambitious. You are constantly wanting to rebrand, and I understand there's a potential movie.
I so want to do a film about my life or a series. So my 5th autobiography is out, or diary, should we say, in October. But I don't know where anyone would start, because so much has happened, so much. I just want to give someone, a director, my books and say, right, put that in a film or a series. Because you'll be mad not to. Even if it just made True Movies Channel, anything. Just do it. You know?
Yeah. Kate said her book's coming out in October, and you're going to go away for a long holiday just to sort of deal with the fallout.
But I love it, really.
Explosive.
And that's the other thing with me, like with interviews and stuff. It's like, I get warned by everyone, don't talk about this, don't do this, don't do this. Same with Big Brother, don't do this, don't do that. I can't help it. If I want to say something, it's there, and I'm like, don't say it, and then I just say it, and then I sit there for a minute like that thinking, oh, what's going to happen? Am I going to be in trouble? And I am, normally.
Yeah.
Do you have someone, like your management, monitoring your Twitter 24 hours a day?
No, because I've got the password. I'm not that silly.
But I think it's an interesting thing talking about this, because one of the things which makes you stronger is weaknesses. And I have this maxim that every problem is an opportunity in disguise. And so I think that to accept a weakness, to accept a problem and do something with it is really an important thing for a personal brand, for all of us, everyone in this room. And I'm actually, you can't see it because it's tied under there, but I'm starting, one of the things I'm starting is a campaign. And this says, lucky for you, I'm bipolar. And I'm starting a program to get bipolar people, especially in the creative industry, to come out about it, because bipolar is linked to creativity. So I use that eccentricity, which I just thought was eccentricity, but now I've got a name attached to it. So I think that all the way through, whatever we might think is a drawback can actually, if you turn it around, be a strength. I think you demonstrated that brilliantly.
And also, once you've got your personal brand nailed, then I think, you know, everyone here has used their personal brand for good. You know, you've done fantastic work with, you know, raising awareness for, you know, caring for a disabled child, and obviously you've got the Ideas Foundation as well, Robin.
Yeah, most people may not know about my Ideas Foundation, so here's a quick plug, because it's probably the most important thing in my life after Paula. Which is that the Ideas Foundation is a charity I set up 11 years ago to get young people between 14 and 18 from disadvantaged backgrounds, particularly ethnic minorities, into the creative industries. So if that's something that interests any of you and want to help us in some way, you can find my email and send me an email. And we've got lots of big brands supporting it, and we've now got young people coming through our program after 4 or 5 years getting into the industry. And that's something that I do not for branding reasons, but because it's just something I find exciting to do. So come and join my campaign. Maybe you'll be one.
Same here. If there's anyone out there with a business idea you want to put pricey to, come and give us a call. I'm there.
This is like Dragon's Den. We should be having everyone pitch.
Show me your idea.
Do you want a quick plug for anything?
Well, I'm just thinking, at the minute I'm just fine. I think I'll look after you, John. Maybe you need a new agent. I'm not sure.
And obviously we've been talking about turning negatives into positives, into opportunities. You know, looking back, do you have any regrets? Do you wish, God, I shouldn't have done that because it's damaged my brand? I'll be asking everyone this.
Well, we all do things that aren't right, and you know, Eurovision was the worst thing for me. I couldn't sing that song then. I still couldn't sing it now. And the outfit, what was I thinking? Being 6 months pregnant, but I enjoyed it at the time. But no, I believe you've got to do things wrong. Nobody is perfect, and I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, I want people to look at me and model themselves on me, because that would be wrong, because I know I do things that some people disagree with. I am what I am, and you have to accept it. I am like Marmite. You either love me or hate me, but don't judge me until you know me properly, is what I'd say.
Yeah. So, in my case, you know, what you regret, decisions you... I mean, I did... There was one time in my life I was trying to get into Parliament. In 1987, I stood for Parliament in a place called Bishop Auckland, and it's a safe Labour seat, yet 19,000 people voted for me. And then I decided for various reasons not to continue on that journey. So had I kept on that journey, you know, what would have happened? But that's a pointless question. I think looking back and saying, did I do something wrong, is utterly disempowering and utterly pointless. Whatever we did, even if it was a mistake, got us to where we are, so we should celebrate it and not think, I wish I hadn't done that. That's an utterly, totally pointless thing to feel, in my opinion.
I think I'm lucky enough to say I have nothing that I regret in that way. If anything, I would just say, now I'm 43 this year, and I think that I feel at a stage where I'm old enough to just be myself. And I kind of, if anything, I wish I'd got there sooner. I think I used to worry so much about what people thought about me. I've always worn cat suits and things like that, and people would judge me for that. And do you know what? I couldn't give a stuff anymore what people think. And I think that sort of level of liberation is a gift that we must all give ourselves, because it's a wonderful place to play when you reach it.
Absolutely. Kathleen, do you think it's harder for women to be taken seriously in business? You know, we've just been talking about being sort of judged on your outfits and that sort of thing, you know, and I don't think men have the same scrutiny.
I think we are judged on it, but I've never believed in a glass ceiling, but maybe I'm lucky enough that I've never experienced it, or I've just circumvented it by setting my own company up, and then no one can tell me what to do. But I think we are judged. Women are judged more so. They're particularly judged on what they wear, and sometimes if they are, for example, if a guy gets drunk at a party in the industry, everyone thinks he's hilarious. If a girl gets seen, you know, having to be spooned into a taxi, it's slightly scurrilous. Things like that are still unfair, but I think, again, you decide whether or not you're bothered by that or not. I think that you'll still find that women in interviews will be asked if they've got children, or who has your children, who looks after your children. A man will not be asked that. You'll assume that his wife, partner, whoever's looking after. There's still things like that will still happen. You'll still be asked. Yeah. I think the world is changing, though. I think we're becoming much more comfortable with the fact that it should be equal. And I think when and if the government catches up and allows, you know, maternity leave to be covered by either parent rather than just the mother, it will be a happy day for me. So I think the world is changing. But I think that I interviewed Yannick Bolloré yesterday from Havas, and he said he thinks women need to be a bit more courageous, and I actually think he's right. I think that we can be and do anything we want to do and be. We just have to believe that and just go for it in any which way we need to. And I think it's just getting rid of the shackles of the sense that we can't do something. We can do anything we want.
But I'd like to just not challenge it, but add an observation, because I actually think if you look at the brain, women's brains and men's brains are different. Man's brain is a male brain, so a male brain tends to a systemizing brain, and a female brain tends to an empathizing brain. And I think a person who's got a 2/3 female brain and a 1/3 male brain is much better equipped for business because of the engagement. So I think women have an advantage over men in business. And that's why I'm a relatively female personality to try and get that myself.
You'd never have thought.
But what about you, Kate? Obviously, you're an absolute business success story, but have you had sort of challenges along the way?
I'm a bit like you, really, where it's my own business. I make my own decisions. Even if people tell me things, I only hear what I have it very filtered. I only hear what I want to hear. And that I'm lucky that I do what I want to do. No one tells me what to do. Even if they do, I make the decision if I want to do it or not. But I know I sit here, because people can never work it out in the way that I sit here. I suppose I act stupid, but I'm not. I know exactly what I'm doing. And I suppose I've always done that, just sort of play it down a bit like,
But also the longevity speaks for itself.
Yeah.
You started 19 years ago in the industry and you're still here.
I know,
and
you don't have to rub it in.
At the top of the game. I'm looking amazing.
Yeah, no, I know, 30, now, 37 in May. Oh, my God. I am getting Botox today.
I think, Sandy, there's an element of surprise in that. You know, I have a little bit of that too. I think, you know, I've got the makeup and the heels and stuff, and I think people sometimes will judge and think, well, she just looks like she's, you know, fun, but a bit frivolous. And I quite like the element of surprise that I may be at a dinner and actually I'll start talking about mezzanine finance or multiple whatever, and suddenly they think, oh, God, I didn't realise that you actually understood business. I think I use that quite mischievously when I want to.
Same.
And Kate, you're continually refreshing your brand. So what tips can you give to us all about how to keep changing, how to keep staying ahead?
Well, any business you do, you've always got a competitor, and I think it's very healthy to have competitors because it's more driven and it keeps you on the ball to your brand, is what I think. So whatever I do, other people will try and do, or they try and steal your format, and clearly there's people who've done that in this country and it clearly doesn't work.
Who's that?
I'm not naming anyone. But, or you get managers I've had before who were like, oh, I'm going to make you in the next Katie Price, this and that, and it makes me laugh because it's me that does it, not them, and I know they try it with other people. But what was the question again? My mind's gone.
Just tips on staying fresh.
Yeah, so all I would say to anyone, any business you're going to do, start small, be realistic, and then grow from there. And just that when you make money from that bit, then you just always put it in the pot. Don't take it out, because then you'll be dry as a bone. You've got to keep it in there and then grow it. Then you'll have enough money in there to then start another business. Well, that's what I've done. It might not work with everyone, but with me, it has worked.
And is it saying yes
Pay your tax
to everything?
VAT,
yeah.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people don't do. No, it's true, though. Lots of people go bankrupt and stuff. They don't pay their tax VAT. Always pay that. Always be above board, and you can sleep at night then.
And who would you say your main competitor is?
There isn't. But there isn't. If someone says to me, when you bring your perfume out, who are you competing with? Oh, my God, how many perfumes are out there? I'm not competing with anyone. I like to compete against myself. It's like if I do a dressage test with my horse, I'm never going to be the best, or I'm never going to be in the Olympics or anything, because I haven't got the right horse, unless anyone wants to sponsor me and give me one. But as long as my score is higher than what I did last time, it's against myself, because I think my brand, it'd be stupid to say who am I competing with, because I don't think anyone else does what I do in this country, unless you think there is. Is there?
Not who does the breadth that you do.
Yeah.
From ironing board covers to movies to...
Yeah.
I think your unconventional branding can teach conventional branding a lot.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to shadow you for a day.
Oh, really? Lots of people say that.
Yeah, well, okay, well, I said it too. I'm predictable. Because the reason is, I think, because you're doing things instinctively, you know, there's big focus group discussions and there's strategy meetings, and brand Katie Price just does it. And I think that's an example of the power of instinct in building brands.
Oh, yeah.
And most of the successful commercial brands I've worked with have had someone with what I call a conviction brand. You're a conviction brand. You don't have to do market research about what you're going to do next. And that's a great lesson to the rest of the branding industry, to follow your instincts.
Oh, totally. And there's so many bullshitters out there I can't be doing with it. You know, when people are, oh, yeah, I can do this, I can do that. And it's like, well, bring it to the table, show me. And then they ask around it. And then I'm like, do you know what? You're just wasting my time. I can't be asked. Life is too short. If you want to do something, do it. Here's the format. Let's go for it.
And would you ever endorse something that, like, you didn't believe in, or that...
Well, yeah, because I can sell anything. Like, if you want me to sell you that table, I'm sure I can make it very, well... Yeah, I could sell that table if you really want me to.
We've got a lot of pricey challenges coming out.
I love a challenge, always. But no, realistically, I'm always open up for any business idea. You know, there's always but I've got to believe in the product. If I don't believe in it or use it or whatever myself, then forget it, because I'm not going to promote or do something that I don't generally use myself and believe in, because that would come across, it would be fake.
And it's that authenticity again.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what happened if you three actually did a Dragon's Den, or put your mind to doing something. I think this is what we'll be doing afterwards.
Project. Well, we can do a project afterwards. There's sort of a special little project.
I would, because I always find as well the fun, like my KP Equestrian, I ended up taking 80% of the equestrian market. My only competitor was Jules at the time, because they did bright colours. And I thought, do you know what, with horses, horse of hound man, look, he's looking at raising his eyebrow, but it is all very boring colours, brown, navy, a bit of cream, unless you're show jumping, then you can have a bit of colour. And I thought, so what, I'm going to make my horses into Barbie. I want to bring Barbie into the real life thing. So I bought pink and all these bright colours.
Purple too, didn't you?
Yeah, everything.
That's the purple one I really liked.
And it done really, really well. But I started small and then grew and grew, and then I had horse boxes out, pink ones I was selling in Germany and stuff. So it does work. Girls love it.
Right, I'm really conscious of time.
I talk a lot as well.
So no, we've just got one last question, which Robin alluded to. So obviously everybody, you know, we've got a sense of everybody's personal brand here, but I just want one secret from each of you that wouldn't be expected, you know, from the personal brands that we're seeing. So tell us something that you wouldn't expect to know about UK.
I'll give you two things, I'll be greedy. One is, I've got 3 sewing machines. I love sewing and making things. And number 2, my dream job would to be a detective or something like that. Or go and interview, like, rapists, serial killers, all of that, to get inside the brain to see what makes them tick. I am so into all of that in the human brain.
I can see a TV show in this.
I love it. Yeah.
Robin?
Wow, I can't match that. That's absolutely brilliant.
But it's true, I love all that.
What secrets? I've talked about being bipolar and all that stuff. One secret, perhaps not very interesting secret, is what my second name is, which is Siegfried.
Oh, there's a story behind that one.
Yeah, well, I chose it for myself, and because I didn't have a second name, because my father didn't want. But I was in a shop called Cartier's. I came down from Cambridge, getting my cards, and I said to this guy, Robin Wight. And he said, would there be a second name, sir? So I was in Cartier's without a second name. So I quickly said, Siegfried! And so I'm Siegfried. So there you are. You know my inner secret. Just don't call me Ziggy.
Oh, Kathleen?
I've got 2, actually, which are quite connected to Katie, interestingly enough. So I've been training as a psychotherapist, as some of you may well know. So I'm currently doing my pilot's licence as a psychotherapist, so I am getting inside the brains of people. So maybe that's what we do together. And interestingly, the thing that I've always wanted to do, which my team at the back will be laughing at because they know what I'm going to say, I have always wanted to do a streak. It's never happened yet. I'm getting on a bit, but I've always wanted to do a streak. Analyse that.
Maybe that's how we end.
You do that, I'll get my boobs out.
Oh!
The real one.
What do I have to do?
Strip.
And
that's the next show.
Get the donkey out.
How did you know?
We've gone from
How did you know?
horse and hound to Robin's
she walks
donkey.
like John Wayne. Sorry.
I can see Marcus Rich's face from where I'm sitting, and it is priceless, let me tell you.
Thank God we've only got 90 seconds left. Okay, so just as a sort of Springer's final thought then, if you were to give, one piece of advice when we're sort of forming our personal brands, what would it be from each of you?
Start small. Be realistic and start small, and then add to it. And always keep the money in the pot so you can afford to expand it and expand it.
Fantastic.
Persistence. Whatever happens, keep going. Persist, persist, persist. Most important, more important than talent is persistence.
Fantastic.
I would say define your destination. Where are you headed? Where do you want to be headed? And then do everything you need to do to absolutely get there. Don't be dissuaded by anybody.
Brilliant. And Lisa's asked me to say if anyone in the audience would like to tell us about their personal brand, tell Timing about their personal brand, Lisa's going to be roving with a mic and camera. Here she is. So your brand in 4 words. That'd be fantastic. And then I think we'll put it on the website. Well, we're bang on time. It's been an entertaining, insightful panel, and I just want to say a round of applause to Katie, Robin, Kathleen. Yeah, and we're done, I think.
And the good mood music continues from Magic Radio.